What are the woke
say,
policies that are
that's
used?
the question.
Are you referring to DEI?
What are the policies?
Yeah, I would say he would specifically name DEI.
And how has that harmed?
How is that harmful?
The military prowess. Name something specific.
I'm right up there with the big dogs. Girls, come on. Leave the saving the world to the men tonight.
Combat-ready transgender volunteers enhances our readiness, promotes innovation, and fosters a culture of respect and understanding that makes the armed forces better.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense system. It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms.
And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there.
I purposely build my office, my front office, my team with diverse. I hire for diversity. You can't let it just be happenstance that brings in the diversity, whether it be race, gender, ethnic background, sexual orientations. Me as the chief of staff, when I sit down with Secretary Barrett, we just had a conversation about this yesterday as we're looking at some key positions. Who are the diverse candidates, and are we making sure we are grooming them so they have the opportunity?
And we've got to actually nudge and pull and actually purposely manage to ensure that we have diverse candidates that can compete. And if they need some help in certain areas with coaching or additional training or additional opportunities, that is something we've got to continue to work on as well. So
I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it.
I'm thinking about my mentors and how rarely I had a mentor that looked like me.
The thing everybody's talking about today is that last night it comes out from the Wall Street Journal that Trump is putting together a executive board that could purge generals from his cabinet, because we remember last time people like General Milley were absolute nightmare and damn near treasonous to Trump, speaking to China behind his back, vowing to undermine him if they disagree with what he's doing. Even just a few days ago, Anderson Cooper on CNN, he's saying that, word on the street is that the Pentagon is taking measures to prepare for the scenario in which they disagree with Trump so they could subvert or undermine him from carrying out his agenda. Love what this article is saying, even though CNN and MSNBC, they're freaking out about it. Obviously, I'm going to show you what they're saying. But first, here's what the article says. The Trump transition team is considering a draft executive order that establishes a warrior board, love it, of retired senior military personnel with the power to review 3- and 4-star officers and to recommend removals if any are deemed unfit for leadership. Boom. Perfect. So it's not even like he's putting it into his own hands to try to just dictatorially decide who should be there, who should not be there. He's getting a bunch of hardened, grizzled vets, lifers, people who love the military, love America, to come in there and say, all right, this guy's a pansy, this guy's a treasonous traitor piece of garbage, get rid of them. A lot of generals are just politicians wearing a costume. If Donald Trump approves the order, it could fast-track the removal of generals and admirals found to be lacking in requisite leadership qualities, according to a draft order that reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. But it could also create a chilling effect on top military officers, given the president-elect's past vow to fire woke generals, referring to officers seen as promoting diversity in the ranks at the expense of military readiness. Oh yeah, because that's totally not happening. As commander-in-chief, Trump can fire any officer at will, but an outside board whose members he appoints would bypass the Pentagon's regular promotion system, signaling across the military that he intends to purge a number of generals and admirals. Great. Listen, speak to anybody in the military, and they'll tell you that what's happening in the military, huge problem, and they're totally against it. And I guarantee you, this right here, they're going to love it. The draft order says it aims to establish a review that focuses on leadership, capability, strategic readiness, and commitment to military excellence. The draft doesn't specify what officers need to do or present to show if they meet those standards. The draft order originated with one of several outside policy groups collaborating with the transition team and is one of numerous executive orders under review by Trump's team, a transition official said. The Warrior Board would be made up of retired generals and non-commissioned officers who would send the recommendations to the president. Those identified for removal would be retired at their current rank within 30 days. Caroline Leavitt, the Trump-Vance transition spokeswoman, declined to comment on this draft executive order, but said, quote, "The American people re-elected President Trump by a resounding margin, giving him a mandate to implement the promises he made on the campaign trail. He will deliver, end quote. The establishment of the board would be in line with Trump's calls for purging what he views as failed generals, including those involved in the chaotic 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, which, crazy enough, there's this general on MSNBC last night who said that he thought the withdrawal from Afghanistan was brilliant the way that it was conducted.
I think the withdrawal from Afghanistan was brilliant.
So that's the type of mental capacity and capability that resides within a lot of generals. Just keep in mind, the people who would be the best generals aren't willing to do what it takes to be a general, and not in terms of the difficulty, but in the kiss-assery that has to take place. Like, you have to pretty much sell your soul to rise through the political ranks to be military general. So the best people don't make it there. The people who would be best at it don't make it there. That's never the case. You could ask anybody in the military. I was never in the military, but unanimously across the board, that's what every single person in the military that I've heard speak on this issue says. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at how these people act. Look at General Milley. Are you kidding me? Trump has said he would ask all generals involved in the withdrawal to resign by noon on Inauguration Day. I love this man. The president-elect previewed the move during a campaign in October, telling an audience that he would create a task force to monitor the woke generals and get rid of diversity training in the military. Perfect. They're gone, Trump said of those generals without naming specific officers. One feared political target of Trump's threatened purge could be Air Force General C.Q. Brown Jr., the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, according to two defense officials. During the 2020 George Floyd protests, Brown spoke about the impact that movement had on him and what it was like to rise through the military ranks as a black fighter pilot. The executive order, which has been reviewed by the president-elect's transition team, may be presented to Trump when he takes office, and its implementation depends on whether he chooses to sign it in its current form, according to a person familiar with its drafting. On Tuesday, Trump announced his intention to nominate Pete Hegseth, a veteran and Fox host, this to be his next Secretary of Defense, if confirmed by the Senate. Hegseth could be key in implementing the findings of the Warrior Board's review. The Trump team wants to do major reforms at the Department of Defense, particularly around the size of the joint staff, according to a person with knowledge of the transition. It's gotten way too big, this person says. Trump also expects that many of the generals, 3- and 4-star generals, that have been underperforming will be basically retired. The draft executive order cites as precedent for this move General George C. Marshall's creation of a, quote, plucking board in 1940 led by retired general officers to review the files of senior serving military officers and, quote, remove from line promotion any officer for reasons deemed good and sufficient. The goal of Marshall's board was to make room to promote promising junior officers. But some former officials believe the incoming Trump administration is looking to politicize the military because it's not politicized right now. The president has the power to fire generals, but rarely does so for political reasons. President Harry Truman fired Army General Douglas MacArthur for publicly challenging the administration's Asia security strategy. President Barack Obama fired Army General Stanley McChrystal as his Afghanistan commander after the military leader's subordinates were quoted as criticizing the administration in a magazine article. U.S. troops take an oath of office to the Constitution and vow not to follow any illegal order, and Congress must approve the promotion of general officers. But establishing a board to separate, blah, blah, blah. All right, you get the point. So first, before I show you how CNN reacted to this, I'm going to show you this clip that is a perfect example of why this needs to happen. So check this out, just days after the election.
On discussions at the Pentagon, I don't know at what level this is. It just seems like it's informal discussions. I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also, Scott, is it?
Look, I don't like this because what's Donald Trump supposed to think?
Discussions at the Pentagon, I don't know at what level this is. It just seems like it's informal discussions. I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also, Scott,
he's sitting down there. He's a bureaucracy of how to thwart or countermand the con or it doesn't matter. The unelected bureaucracy of this government answers to the civilian that we were in his with these they have problems, have meetings that then leak to the press. If they have ideas or things, they should call the president's office and say, hey, we'd like to have some discussions for planning purposes. But secret meetings that leak, terrible way to get off to a start with the new administration.
Well, I agree that that's maybe not the best way to do it.
They have ideas or things, they should call. If they have, let me finish. If they have problems, what would you think? If they have problems, if they have, let me finish. If they have problems, they should not have meetings that then leak to the press. If they have ideas or things, they should call the president's office and say, hey.
I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also, Scott, is it?
Look, I don't like this because what's Donald Trump supposed to think? You know, he's sitting down there, he's the president-elect, and now he's got to read in the newspaper tonight that the unelected bureaucracy of the federal government is having meetings at some level about how to thwart or countermand the commander-in-chief. I don't care if it's at the Pentagon or at the HUD or Ag Department.
I mean, it just came out a few days after Trump getting elected. The Pentagon was already having meetings on how to subvert and undermine Trump if they disagree with him on specific policies. That is treason. They answer to the president. They don't answer to anybody else. They don't get to decide policy. They follow orders. So there's the treason side of this, and there's the woke side of this, which both are toxic in their own way, but one of them's much more of an immediate danger. The other one's more of a slow burn. But this is how CNN reacted to the news that Trump's going to purge these woke, disloyal generals.
But I don't understand what you mean by woke.
Social and cultural programming into the military that is commonly found at universities, commonly found in corporate America.
Where's
and maybe,
the evidence?
And maybe it's fine for that.
That's the question.
But that's what resists in the federal bureaucracy, specifically in the military.
Is there some truth in that?
That's his policy.
That he just wants to control it for himself so he can use it as he pleases. And we're using that term as
name the
woke
woke
for himself.
policies.
What are the woke policies that are
That's
used?
the question.
Are you referring to DEI?
What are the policies?
Yeah, I would say he would specifically name DEI.
And how has that harmed? How is that harmful? The military prowess. Name something specific.
How does DEI harm the military process? Okay, let's start with lowering standards because you want to have women in combat. If you lower performance standards, physical performance standards for people who are actively in physical combat in life and death situations, that undermines the military, that undermines the lives of people who are on those missions. You have stuff like this, for example.
Take someone like Milley. I mean, he was calling down to individual units to make sure they had female company commanders after they graduated from Ranger School. Like, what's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs doing pushing company command slots for? It's all an agenda.
Then you have the military paying for gender. Then you have the military paying for gender surgeries. Then you have things like the military paying for gender surgeries. Then you have them canceling things like Hell Week and making it a much more mild version of what it used to be. You have leadership all throughout the military who are walking on eggshells. You have leadership throughout the entire military who's walking on eggshells, afraid to lose their job if they so much as discipline people who are beneath them. That's not a winning culture. You might say, oh, that's your opinion. You don't have any data to back that up. Oh, okay, let's see. Oh, on the contrary, the U.S. Army in 2022 had its toughest recruiting year since the advent of the all-volunteer military in 1973, and it missed its goal by 25%. This year, it expects to end up about 15,000 short of its target of 65,000 recruits. The Navy expects to fall short by as many as 10,000 of its goal of nearly 38,000 recruits this year. The Air Force said it is anticipating coming in at 3,000 below its goal of nearly 27,000. The Marine Corps is the only one who met its target. Only 9% of young people ages 16 through 21 last year said that they would consider military service, down from 13% before the pandemic. You're not going to attract the type of people that you want in the military with woke agendas. And Pete says something great in here. And Pete says something great in his interview with Sean Ryan. He says that the diversity agenda is the most toxic thing that has ever infiltrated the military because the military should be focused on unity, not diversity. You're all the same, and you have a vested interest.
Is woke military. But I don't understand what you mean by woke.
Social and cultural programming into the military that is commonly found at universities, commonly found in corporate America.
Where's the evidence?
And maybe it's fine for that.
That's the question.
But that's what he resists.
What he's dancing around is when Trump.
Like when you break it down, the military might be one of the least racist places ever because, well, I mean, in combat at least, I would imagine the military might be the least racist place in the world because it's supposed to be about merit and earning respect based on merit. But these idiots, they're so blind to it. Look at how she's trying to frame this thing.
Let me just add one thing here. I think that what everybody's dancing around is when Trump and his allies say, we're going to go after woke in the military. Usually woke is a code name for diversity. Diversity is a code for people of color. There are already not that many people of color in the 3- and 4-star general ranks. So if that is the mandate, to go after people who care about diversity, what do you think is going to be the end result of that?
I don't think that's true.
I just think we should contemplate what is the end result of Trump going after 3- and 4-star generals. There are not that many of them. Not that many of them that are people of color. Anyone who prioritizes diversity in the military is going to be on the chopping block. He talked about woke 1,000 times. You cannot take that out of the equation. That is a big part of the mandate.
I'm not taking it out of the equation.
And so the question is, what is the concrete consequence of it for a military that is already struggling with adequately promoting people who are already within their ranks, right? And are not making it up to those high ranks.
Listen up, you dumbass. We do not care about equity and diversity in the military. We care about who is the best for the job, who's going to do the best job of protecting the country, and who deserves to be there. You should, for this especially, and then for any job in America, the person who's doing the hiring should be able to do it with a blindfold on, should be able to do it just based off hearing what the person that they're considering hiring has accomplished, not knowing their age, skin color, gender, nothing. Just their physical, mental, and social performance. That's it. What is the quality of their performance in the areas that matter? This is like the first time in my lifetime that we've had a regular, actual normal thinking human at this position instead of a lifelong bureaucrat, military politician that has God knows what agenda. I mean, I don't even know what these people are thinking, what they want, who've been in this system for their lifetime. Like Mark Milley, what does Mark Milley care about? To go behind Trump's back to speak to China. What are his goals there? Why is that not something we speak about every day? The highest ranking person in our military went behind the president's back to speak to China because he didn't agree with what the president was doing. That's treason at the highest fucking level. What are we talking about?